Dr. Greg Ellis. How does homeopathy actually work? Well, we really don't know. About 120 years ago, two German biologists came up with something called the law of hormesis. The law of hormesis is very interesting. The law of hormesis states that a substance can be toxic and damaging in a high dose, and in a low dose can actually be beneficial. So the dose is critical. Alcohol is a good example of a hormetic agent. We really don't know what dose will damage you. In some of the European companies, they drink a bottle of wine a day and they're healthier for it. During World War II, the French made sure that there were 2 bottles a day available for each soldier and 1 bottle available for regular citizens, because they knew that 2 bottles a day would help the soldiers be stronger and healthier. Now, what dose beyond that becomes toxic, we don't really know. A low dose is important, and this is what homeopathy is. It's extremely low doses. Just for review, the way they make a homeopathic remedy is they take a substance, could be any substance at all, and they dilute it in 100 drops of alcohol, and could be water, but typically it's alcohol, and then they succuss it, they bang it against something. And that, of course, lessens the dose, and this is why medicine says homeopathic remedies can't work, because there's nothing in them. So as you continue this process of dilution and succussion, the dose that you receive becomes lower and lower. Now, obviously, there's no chemical substance left in the homeopathic remedy, and it's argued that the process of dilution and succussion extracts the energy. So the notion here is that every substance in the world has an energy pattern to it, an energy field, and that's what we're trying to access through the use of a homeopathic remedy. So it's this low dose that somehow imparts a stress on the organism, stimulating it to become stronger. That's what the law of hormesis says. How has homeopathy evolved over the years? Well, the classical homeopathic approach developed by Samuel Hahnemann, which is still in force today, continued to evolve. And he changed it himself at the end of his life in around 1843. And he wrote a 6th edition of his book. That book didn't get read or published until about 1950. So practitioners missed the new developments that he created. What else is happening in the world of homeopathy? Well, the question becomes, what kinds of things are causing damage to our bodies? Well, the medical field relies on what's called the germ theory of disease. They say there's germs, there's bacteria and viruses that cause disease. And their world pretty much ends right there. They haven't evolved to go any further than that at all. But there's another school of thought that argues that environmental pollutants are significant toxins. Now, we know there are between 80,000 to 120,000 chemicals in commercial use, and well less than 1% of them have been studied in any detail. The Centers for Disease Control evaluated the urine and blood in 5,000 people years ago for finding out whether their tissues contained any one of 209 different chemicals, and they found that 98% of the people did. What are symptoms? Symptoms are the representation of the body in defending itself against some sort of attacking agent. So let's say you've got mucus. The medical people want to blame that on a germ. That's their MO. But your body's actually making that mucus to defend itself. Against what? Chemical toxicity, heavy metal toxicity. These are things medicine does not concern itself with at all. Toxins, they know nothing about it. They don't talk about it. And these toxins are really quite damaging. They're causing a lot of problems in people. I've been very much aware of them since about the early 1990s and have worked in using remedies that help my body prepare itself and defend itself against exposure to these different toxins. Now, in homeopathy, this is a process called drainage. And we use homeopathic remedies to stimulate drainage or elimination or detoxification, helping the body get rid of its collection of these things. So there's no question these things are collected in our bodies and they're causing problems. Not identified by anyone in the medical establishment because they don't exist there. But in the homeopathic world, they do exist. When I was first starting my clinical nutrition practice, it was a question of what was I going to do? What was I going to become? Was I going to be an herb guy, a vitamin guy? Was there homeopathy? What was I going to do? And it was a challenge to find out that. And I ran into a guy who started talking about the effect of environmental toxins. And I began to study toxicology. And I discovered that we are full of all these different toxins, these chemical toxins. In 1975, a guy from Dartmouth wrote a book called The Poisons Around Us. And he argued that the 5 toxic metals, mercury, cadmium, lead, beryllium, and antimony, were responsible for 95% of all illnesses and for 50% of all deaths. That's a pretty strong statement, just based on our exposure to those 5 toxic heavy metals. And then when you add in the chemical toxicities that we are acquiring, you really have a prescription for health problems. So I began to specialize in stimulating the body's own self-healing capacity so it could eliminate this collection of toxins. And it's been very, very worthwhile. It helped my health a lot. I've helped a lot of other people with their health. But this, of course, is still not talked about very much. So it's important that we understand the concept of environmental pollution. We understand the magnitude of the problem. It's enormous. The whole formation of the agribusiness started after World War II because the Germans were using chemical agents and toxins for warfare. And they had a whole collection of data, but when the war ended, that was it. It was over. So then the pesticide industry developed because they knew how these toxins were going to poison and kill and how they were going to destroy the nervous system of the insects. And that became that business. And of course then the pharmaceutical industry grew out of that, and people were just loaded with drugs in an effort to squash their symptoms or suppress them. This isn't what homeopathy is about. Homeopathy is about expressing. It's about helping you clean your body. So this is an important concept, and because these remedies are energetic, the energy of the substance has been released. They stimulate the 95% of our body that represents our energy fields, and that's what makes it so powerful. So the use of herbs and the use of vitamins, they're all chemical substances, and they're only working on 5%. Is the 5% important? Sure it is. We've got to eat, we've got to exercise, we've got to take care of that. The combination of working on both the energy fields and the physical body is really the way to do it. And you're not exposed to this stuff because you're not hearing it from anybody. But this is the area in which I've spent the last 16 years of my life working. It's very, very powerful. So take a look at using some homeopathic drainage remedies. To go deeper into homeopathy, you're going to need a trained counselor to help you with that. But certainly in the sense of using drainage remedies, that's easy to do. That's not complicated, and I have some up on the site. So you can get those and get started with that and see about cleaning out some of these, helping your body clean out and eliminate some of these accumulated toxins. I'm Dr. Greg Ellis.